How did we get here to where Florida State and Clemson, and maybe others very soon, is suing the ACC? A conference that Clemson's been part of for decades. How did we get here? My goal today is to summarize this thing as much as I possibly can, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and warn you, there's a lot of details. I almost hesitate to go any farther with this. I should probably just end the live stream and call it a day, but that's not really how I operate. Welcome to Clemson Football Live. I'm Brian. I'm glad you're here. If you like what I'm doing, or if you like to argue with me, I hope you'll subscribe, pass it along. I do appreciate it. So there's a lot of details here. And I hesitate to summarize it because of that. You need to understand that when you have a YouTube channel or you go online and you post your opinions and you put your face to it, you are in the cesspool of society. You're like, Brian, did you just call me part of the cesspool? Not you, but there are those of you that are. Because if I misspeak for half a second, if I leave out one detail unconsciously, I'm not being malicious. Trust me. The thunder thumbs of the internet will show up with their guillotine of judgment, take my head off, and it will roll across the terrain that is the World Wide Web. But I'm still going to go after this thing. So you need to understand how this thing took off is when Florida State and a few others found out that other conferences and their members were making a lot more money. I'm not talking about a few $100,000 more. A lot more money than they are and were making. Then, the timing, I think, is just spot on for this. The new CFP deal. It gets thrown out there. Oh, the ACC is making millions less if they get into the college football playoff than this conference over here. But we got to ask ourselves, what all really pushed us here? Well, there's that. But I in the comments section or in the chat, I placed this in here. I placed an article by Tomahawk Nation. Tomahawk Nation is, in fact, a Florida State magazine, and they did a great job. If you scroll down, I want to read this because to me, this really sums up a lot of it. And you're like, Brian, this is Florida State. How does this deal with Clemson? It's because I'll guarantee you Clemson feels a lot of the same way. Here we go. Quoting this article. In an amended complaint, Florida State unleashed over a decade's worth of pent-up anger at the mismanagement of the conference's business affairs. The latest filing details the original media deal the ACC negotiated with ESPN and Raycom. Remember Raycom? Raycom Sports. In 2011 that started the mess the conference finds itself in today. It directly accused then ACC Commissioner John Swofford of self-dealing by keeping Raycom, and by extension, Swofford's son, Chad Swofford, a Raycom sports executive since 2007, in business, resulting in $82 million in lost television rights revenues, as previously chronicled by the Tomahawk Nation. The complaint stated ACC schools spent between $110 and $120 million preparing for the ACC network's launch. I have a lot of thoughts on that one. Tomahawk Nation previously cited the cost associated with the network's launch as one of the driving factors behind FSU's skyrocketing yearly athletic debt under former athletic director Stan Wilcox. It goes on. There's something fishy going on. What's going on between the Swofford family? I'm not slandering them. They may be great people. Good people make bad mistakes all the time. I don't know them. But it sure does look like some self-dealing went on there. And then notice how the ACC doesn't really want anyone to know about anything that's going on behind the scenes with ESPN. They don't want to disclose it. This whole February 2025 option that ESPN can actually exercise, part of FSU going after the ACC actually churned this up. Somebody found out about it and they're like, oh, they wasn't supposed to find out about that. Hide it, hide it, hide it. This is also one of the reasons that in everyday life, you run into people who, if they are forced out of a job, the company says, hey, listen, we'll give you a severance package, but we need you to sign what's called an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, also called a confidentiality agreement. You're like, what does this have to do with it? Just follow me, stick with me. The Rock's cooking something, you're about to smell it and you're going to love it. They sign a non-disclosure agreement. Why? Because the company, though they're doing bad and shady things, they don't want the public to know that they're doing bad and shady things. So they fire someone, they make them sign a non-disclosure agreement. You go, how do you make them? What they do is they dangle a bunch of money in front of them because they know this person who's just been fired needs the money. So this person who needs the money is now in a moral dilemma. I need the money. And if I just keep my mouth shut, I take that money and I move on. But I can never tell what actually happened. I know someone right now who this happened to. They're very good people, and I highly respect them. And you know that if you don't sign the NDA, as soon as that company hears that you say anything bad about them, they're going to sue you for defamation, right? Oh, we know that. We know that. They have enough money to spend and blow. That's why they like to keep these things hid in the shadows. Now, see, the ACC says Clemson, along with the ACC members, the team members, and I've made notes here, folks. I'm not going to try to hide this. I've had to make notes, and I'm still going to miss things. Along with all the ACC teams, except for Notre Dame in football, because we let them come and go as they please, voluntarily signed and re-signed the 2013 and 2016 Grant of Rights, which is binding through 2036. The ACC says yesterday, in response to the lawsuit, the conference's legal counsel will vigorously enforce the agreement and bylaws in the best interest of the ACC's current and incoming members. You're talking about Stanford and California, Atlantic Coast teams, and SMU. Yes, it's SMU. No offense, SMU. I'm just having some fun here. But see, Clemson says, hold on. Says that the grant of rights and the ACC's contract with ESPN, when read together, plainly states that Clemson controls its media rights for games played if it is no longer a member of the ACC. Now, see, all of these schools are playing an angle right now. And you have to play different angles at one time. Also, remember, lawsuits are extremely expensive. So the ACC could be bled dry just by lawsuits. You get a few more schools in this. By the way, where are you, North Carolina? We need you. North Carolina, you're one of the top law schools in the United States of America. I'm not talking about in the ACC. I'm talking about in America. Where are you? By the way, I want to make that point as well. It's interesting that the ACC would try to play some type of interestingly shady game, whether conscious or unconscious, with member schools who are some of the top law schools in the United States of America. Go look it up. Duke is the top law school in the ACC as of right now, followed by Virginia, followed by UNC, followed by Wake Forest. I'll stop there. Do you really want to tick off those members so much that they take the contract, they walk down to the law school, toss it in there like meat among piranhas, and go, just for an exercise, take this apart. Find any and every way that y'all can. And you're like, well, those are law students. Yeah, but their professors are there. Take it apart. That's they think a lot of themselves to go after law institutes. You need to think about that. My question is, why did the ACC not look out for their members? Have you asked that question? This makes them look bad. Your own schools are suing you. They're suing you. Why? I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and I'm going to end this video because I want you to try to have some type of summarized view of what's going on. And I probably did a poor job at it, but as I said yesterday on my other video about this, when, breaking news at Clemson's, they filed a lawsuit, which by the way, legally, they don't have to let the ACC know that that they're actually filing a lawsuit. Now, I want to say if they were in the state of North Carolina, they'd have to. I can't remember. Don't quote me on that one, but I'm pretty sure that's it. But I said that every time this issue comes up or another school joins the whole lawsuit thing, guess what? Another layer of the onion gets unpeeled, and you see something a little more concerning than the last time. Clemson is not suing the ACC saying they didn't sign. No, they're saying the details in this grant of rights and the exit fees are absolutely ridiculous because other conferences, their exit fees are nothing like the ACC. So let's encapsulate this. The ACC has done a terrible job negotiating TV rights for their member schools. They're low, very low compared to other schools, but this is golden. But to leave the ACC, you got to pay a hefty price. Does that not sound shady to you? Why has the ACC not looked out for their members? Why did the decision makers at these schools not look out for their schools better? Is it because it's part of a good old boy system? Did they feel like that they were going to hurt the feelings of their contacts at the ACC if they were like, hey, we need this defined. We need more transparency. Are they afraid that the ACC officials were going to look at them and say, that hurts me, Jim. Todd, I can't believe that you asked that of me. First, let me tell you this. You need to understand, this is kind of like a prenup. No matter what your feelings are on the prenup, that's not what we're talking about here. But we need to understand that a prenup, it lays out what will happen should a marriage dissolve. Why? Because you will never find a greater hate than the hate between two individuals who loved each other so much they decided to get married. You have to, if you have a lot of money, you have to detail out what's going to go on afterwards. Have different feelings on a prenup. That's not I don't know, but I think it's a great way to, especially if you have someone who's trying to get your money. That's a great way to really lock down their intentions. That's not the subject here. I want you to remember that none of us are lawyers. None of us are lawyers unless you are a lawyer. Lawyers are very good. ACC has their lawyers, but once again, the ACC has the ACC member schools has a ton of lawyers. Hence the law schools I just laid out. I'm telling you, that's something in itself. Why did these officials at these schools not make sure that their schools were getting a better deal and that they signed for such a long period of time? I had one great comment that said, well, you got to understand people were panicking at the time because they wanted to be part of the big conference. Look, we have our own network. Well, have you seen the ACC network? I jokingly say this, but not all the time, but a lot of times you can tell that it is not near the quality of the SEC network. Not even close. Sometimes it looks like the ACC and ESPN agreed to find a PBS after hours and film there. It looks bad. I'm not going to take a shot at the personalities, but even some, not all of them, but even some of the personalities are yawn-worthy. I'm not a professional journalist. I'm not a former player. I'm a guy in his bonus room who just likes to talk Clemson football, likes to talk college football. I don't mean this bad, but I'm sitting there staring at them going, and they pay you a lot of money to be on here? Not all of them, but a lot of them. Doesn't make sense. This was poorly planned out and poorly laid out, poorly executed. But you can't leave unless you want to pay an outrageous amount of money. My other question that I have is, well, I just want to throw this out there. Someone sent me an extremely, extremely rude comment on this. And folks, once again, when you get on the internet, it is the cesspool. All right? There's a lot of people who's big and tough behind their keyboard. There's a lot of people who gets awfully, it's worse than getting a few drinks in somebody and all of a sudden they're the biggest man in the world when they can use their thumbs to say anything through a keyboard. But this rude and arrogant person said that all the people who signed for Florida State are no longer there, and they told me to do my research, but they use some colorful language. It's not the worst language, but it was extremely rude and arrogant, and it was unneeded. I cleaned it up. My response to not only this person, but to anybody who's thinking that, you mean whether they were fired or let go, or left on their own, you're still stuck with the terrible decision. Either way, you lose. You lost. You're having to sue the ACC. You're not guaranteed a way out. My point is not whether someone is still there or not. My point is that whether they were there or not, or they're still there, the point is that they allow this deal to be negotiated without really, really clear terms. Were they really that bamboozled by the ACC? Did they really have that much of a personal relationship with the officials, the leadership at the ACC, so much that they thought, we don't need to put this in a legal document? Says the lawsuit. Folks, in the comment section below, I hope you'll drop what you think. Am I right? Am I wrong? What am I not considering? I would like to hear it. I always ask it, just keep civil. I can't make you. I just ask that you be civil. Tell me what you agree with. Tell me what you see coming down the line. And my question is, I end it with this. Where is North Carolina? North Carolina, we need you. We need the other schools, but especially North Carolina, because North Carolina is a big deal for both the SEC and the Big Ten. The SEC does not have a market in North Carolina. And North Carolina is a really good institute. The Big Ten is more appealing, or Florida State and Clemson is more appealing to the ACC. The Big Ten. My Lord, I've read too many notes. I've made too many notes. I've listened to too many podcasts. I've listened to too many discussions on this subject. I'm now losing it. But moving forward, I hope you'll subscribe. Pass this along to your friends, your neighbors, those who love college football, whether it's Clemson or not. I really do appreciate that. Also, if you want to join on a monthly basis, there is a join button below. You can hit the. Let me see. You can hit the join button below. It's either $3 or $5. And I had somebody told me the other day, said, dude, it comes out of my bank account. I don't even notice it. Okay, I don't even notice it's so affordable. Last, also, I am joining the College Huddle, which will launch in April. Nothing's changing here. Still my show, still my name. If I were to leave the College Huddle, it'd still be my name. Any support you give me, it's still mine. My point in saying all of this is nothing's changing, and that was one of the reasons that I wanted to join when they invited me to represent Clemson. So that will launch in April, and I'll give you more details as it comes about. Folks, lawsuit, no lawsuit, preseason, midseason, postseason, good or bad, it's always good to be a Tiger. Go Tigers.